Are you constantly getting taken down in single legs and have no idea how to defend and end up getting smashed, frustrated, and turn into a filthy guard puller by default? There happens to be a simple solution to the single leg dilemma, and we're going to systemize it for you so you can not only stop getting taken down, but capitalize off your training partner's mistakes to generate immediate offense. Let's start with step 1.
What we want to do and what we want to focus on and prioritize is making sure that we control our knee, not him. If he controls my knee, it's going to be very difficult to facilitate all these other escapes. But if I can have my knee just slightly above his grip, as opposed to his grip well underneath my knee where he's like at my hip level, it's going to be very difficult for me to start to escape this. So the obvious thing, thinking about where we want to put them, if he's holding on just below my ankle, where my Achilles is, like all the way down here, this is a pretty weak grip for him, and it's pretty easy for me to start to escape. And so if you think about, I'll do it on Charles, if you think about this grip being pretty weak, especially when I'm down here, because I'm all the way at the end of the lever, if he wants to limp out of this, it's quite easy. If he tries to limp out when I'm under the knee, it's slightly harder. Yeah, he's got a lot more to do. But he tries to limp out when I'm at the hip line, now it's almost physically impossible, obviously depending on how slippery it is. So you want to prioritize getting your leg as long, as far away from their grip as possible, and that's what we're going to start with. Now, you're going to have to use your hand some of the time if they're doing a good job with their gripping. So you're going to start to take a C-post inside here, free your knee ever so slightly, and then you can start to perform the limp out. I want you to point your toes down towards the floor, turn, and start to limp this direction. Now notice that I didn't completely let go of him because I want to have some sort of idea of where he's at. If I just let go, he's got back exposure, he's got rear body locks, we end up in a worse situation. If I don't let go, I've got some sort of block for him to immediately grab towards body locks and reclaiming the single. So when he does try and go towards that, I can first of all stop him from doing it, but then my down block becomes the thing that stops him from going any further. And then we can start to pick up our own offense, go into our own single legs and that sort of thing. And we always want to be thinking about chains of our defense immediately into our offense. Because if we're just defending and we've only got a defensively mind, I might do this and then I give him offense again. And now I'm backpedaling, I'm on the back foot. Whereas if we think about defending properly and then we start to go into our own offense, he's now having to deal with what I'm doing to him instead of the opposite. So let's go through a limp out, get your partner to get underneath the knee, nice and tight, have a good job at, have a practice at freeing your knee line, keep your hand on their shoulder, turn in, down block, get them to try and re-single leg you, and then switch over. If what happens if they do a really good job at connecting to your ankle as you start to limp away, and now you're stuck in this like sort of limbo situation? First of all, a little bit of velocity. His grip can't be that strong, and so I should theoretically be able to kick free from it. Let's say that we're finding that difficult. We can start to turn in and start to point our foot down towards the floor. Because he doesn't have a robust grip underneath my hamstring, it's likely to assume that my glute is a lot stronger than his hands. So I can start to just stomp my foot down towards the mat. He may reach for the single again, but that's where we're starting to go into situations of exposing his elbows off his body, and then we can start to go back into our offense. So we'll be quick with this one. We get into our limp series. He does a great job at contacting our lower leg, so he's got a 2-on-1. We try and come away. Sometimes it's just about a little bit of velocity. If it isn't and Charles is strong, we start to turn back in, keeping this arm straight the entire time. You can even take a grip on one of the other hands, preferably thumb down grip. You can of course go to thumb up grip, but because we're prioritizing thinking about our next offensive sequence, a thumb down grip would be preferred. Kick your foot down towards the mat and start to go into your arm drag series and go right back into offense. Let's give that a go. Test your hip dexterity, your hip flexibility, Ramen. Your hip flexibility to some degree, but it's still a worthwhile option to think about. We always want to think in patterns of left and right, so that if we go one way and we meet resistance, we've got a secondary option to follow that up with. And so what you should be thinking about in terms of that is if we can't turn our knee down for whatever reason, we can typically turn our knee out and around. And obviously I'm not the most dexterous, so even I struggle with this. You see wrestlers do this in freestyle wrestling quite well. But essentially, instead of pointing your knee towards this direction, you're pointing your knee towards the open direction, and you can start to limp your foot out. It's hard to break it down in a very slow fashion. So typically what we're looking for, we're starting to get this grip as low as we can, and then we can start to limp our foot out and away. You might find it difficult, you might not gravitate towards this, but it's worthwhile considering as an option. We'll do a couple of quick reps at that, and then we'll look at some offense. Now let's start to think about two other methodologies that involve our upper body instead of our lower body. And this is really important to consider. We've got a big, strong guy like Charles. He's got a robust grip underneath my leg. I've tried to limp out and it's not really working. His grip is a lot stronger than my ability to get my leg out of here. And so I've got to have to start to think about how I can utilize my arms and my upper body, obviously without exposing my back and giving him rear body locks, which would be very good for him and very bad for me. So depending on where their head position is, this is how I make my decision. If his head's low and his eyes are towards the floor, he's actually making a bit of a mistake here, and we can capitalize on this mistake. I can start to take a front headlock grip with a chin strap, and I can start to potentially link myself together into arming guillotine territory. Now, I don't ever intend on finishing this, and I also do not overcommit to this, because if he starts to dump me down, I don't have exactly, if I'm connected to his torso, see how I had to let go to start to stay up? If I'm trying to sell out on this, it's not a good idea. So what I am trying to do is encourage him to start to let go of his hands by starting to crunch him down towards the floor. Exactly right. Now, when I'm in this situation, I'm thinking immediate offense. That doesn't involve finishing this guillotine most of the time. He's in a very athletic position. The likelihood that I get all my body weight down to my left hip and sit on my hip to get a solid finish while he's in both feet, very unlikely. He's probably going to cartwheel over. So instead of doing that, what I'm going to start to do, I'm going to start to feed my leg back, down and around, and attach myself to this arm. Now, if he postures up out of here, I've got access to my own single leg and I can start to go right in. If he doesn't posture up and I'm able to flank him, I simply go into my own rear body lock territory. And I've got a nice little arm drag potential there. So we start to come into this position. I try and limp out. His grip is nice and robust, but his eyes are down towards the floor. He's making a mistake. I'm going to latch onto the front of his head here. In my front headlock grip, I'll go around the arm, and then I can start to perform somewhat of an arming guillotine finish. Again, I'm not intending on finishing this. This is just trying to motivate him to let go of his hands. If he doesn't, my ability to sprawl my leg back while his eyes are down towards the floor is actually pretty good. So I can start to sprawl him back. I can pull him down into front headlock territory into a 4-point. I can start to go arm drags, get towards my own rear body lock, and you can start to see how that opens up a lot of chains of attack for me. So with the same situation, his eyes are down towards the horizon, or his eyes are up in the correct posture, and I start to feed him down in this direction. If I can get my hands snaked through for the what we're calling the Tamagotchi, we're going to start to feed his head over across the center line, and then we're going to start to get our elbow to the bottom of his chin here, high-fiving our own chest, getting our fingertips up past his shoulder. Now, the reason why this is preferent, you don't have to, that's okay, I know you're strong. The reason I prioritize this over arming guillotines is that what we know about this finish is that even if they cartwheel over the other side, you can still get a strangle. So you're not really putting yourself at too much risk if you do actually sell out on this. And it's also very tight. It's very motivating for him to start to let go. So even if you do kind of sell out on it, you can always come out of the strangle if you'd like to. So we're going to start to guide his head down towards the floor. Even if it isn't there, we can always start to cross snap him over the top. We can start to reach in for our Tamagotchi finish. Go over the arm and up to your tricep. If you don't have the arm length for that, you can start to cup his bicep or his tricep and start to pull it towards your chest. Now, if I do go down to the ground, if he does cartwheel over, I start to go onto my left side. Yeah, you'll start to notice something like this happens, and we can still get a very nice strangling potential no matter where he ends up. So if you were to choose a guillotine based on that information, this would be the best option, although it is a little bit harder to get to in the standing position while you're also defending takedowns. So if we think about arming guillotine, quite easy, I just reach over the top here. Tamagotchi, I kind of have to place set him first, centerline shift, get my hand all the way around the top, and then high five my chest. Let's say we don't decide to go down to the floor and I start to put strangle pressure in here. Charles is probably going to want to let go. Fantastic. I can now sit to my ass if I'd like to, or I've fulfilled the requirements for defending the takedown. I can start to snap him forwards. Exactly. Start to go for go behinds, get behind him into a rear body lock situation. Let's give that a go. We'll look at one more thing after. Arming guillotine, we give this a bit of heat and then he starts to take his head out and away this direction. What we can start to do is elongate his elbows away from his body. We can start to extend our leg and then lift him up with the overhook that we already have because of the arming guillotine. Now what we're going to start to do is we're going to start to circle towards my overhook side. I'm going to start to take an outside step so that I can get Charles's leg all his body weight is going to be on his left foot. I'm going to take an armpit grip up underneath, and then I block his leg, starting to rotate him over for Sasai. This can be seen as an example in the match with Mateus Denise and Giancarlo Bordoni. It's basically the thing that put Giancarlo in the lead, not on points, but mentally, where he started to win the match, even though Mateus got to a snatch single and was really effective in terms of defense. So again, we're not always prioritizing finishing this guillotine, but we are prioritizing its effects to be able to motivate our partner to let go of their grip. So we go arm in guillotine here. Charles does the right thing by starting to look away and free his head. What you'll notice is that his head's come up, but his hands stay in the same position, which means his grip is long and it's a lot easier to break. So what I'm going to start to do is lift him up with the overhook that I've already gained from the arm in guillotine. And then as soon as I feel that his hands have broken, I'm going to start to take this step all the way across his body. As my hand follows me around the corner into his armpit, I block his leg, and then I hit a really nice Sasai. Don't have the intention of just finishing that and then watching your work. It is very motivating to think about that. You're like, oh, fuck yeah, I took that guy down, but now he's standing up in front of me again. Always finish your takedowns with the intention to pin them afterwards. So as soon as we get down to this situation, it's not enough that he starts to go. If he starts to roll over from turtle, I'm always thinking about covering hips. If he decided to turn into me for whatever reason, again, I'm thinking about covering hips. I'm staying on top of him. I'm trying to get my head above his head to ensure that I actually consolidate my takedown instead of just letting it turn into another scramble and another 50-50 sort of position. So let's give that a go, then we'll wrestle.